Good Welders, CRN. And let me tell you about my guest, the one and only Kimberly Dvorak, D-V-O-R-A-K. She's an award-winning national security border security investigative reporter for TV, radio, and the print media. She is also the senior foreign policy advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy. She's a TV correspondent for CW6 News San Diego, as well as One American News Network, and her website is thekdreport.com. Hey, Kimberly, how are you?
Fine. How are you doing, Chuck?
Pretty good. Your level's way down there for some reason. I don't know, but...
I'll try this a little bit closer.
Okay, two things. Number one, I know that you are on YouTube.
Yeah.
Are you still streaming live at Facebook? Or
I am. Yes, I'm out of Facebook jail, so now I'm streaming live. So for all the viewers and listeners out there, good to see you guys. It's been a couple weeks, but it's always worth it. When you pay your penance to the masters that rule this country currently, and that would be social media.
That's right. We'll make sure we get nothing but all the truth and nothing but the truth.
Yeah.
So help us.
Something.
And by the way, normally I want to tell you, listener, you're used to having Kimberly on Monday, but she had to do some stuff, and so now she's here today. However, she will be back next Monday.
Nope, next Wednesday. Same thing next week, sorry.
Next week. Let me see here. Yes, okay. Glad I brought that up. Yes. Now then, the National Park Service is going to spy on picnics, family outings, and weddings. Now here's the thing, because I'm getting a little bit flat on this.
Yeah.
Is this only if you want to have a special party and a permit, or is this anybody going into the park?
Well, like when families head, it's summertime, and now it's post-COVID, but I guess we're going to be going back into COVID, so people are all rushing out, trying to get out before we go back to hibernation, I guess, kind of like the bears these days. But, they go out to Yosemite, and you run through the National Park Service, and you got to pay your entrance fee. They take your license plate number. Now they're taking an ID. They're documenting how many people are inside your party. And a lot of people are actually, unaware of this, but now the National Park Service will become even greater, have a greater role within the intelligence community, because they're going to be sending all of that information on a person who goes with their family to a national park and pays to go in. They will keep that information for 15 years. So you imagine, this is all FOIA available information. So say you're a campaign donor to a party that's not in power, and what you do is you can go in and you can find out where these families are going. So now you're going to have people that are going to be scared or afraid to even go out and enjoy the national parks in this country, because this information is now going to could possibly be used as a weapon against them if they have some sort of business that might be a corporation like a Chick-fil-A type thing. These people are going to now again be targeted, but not only by like the government and the whole Condoleezza or Susan Rice, at the end of the Obama administration, where they went in and they doxed and they released information like they're doing right now with Tucker Carlson. That kind of stuff is going to be out there, so people are going to be afraid to go out and actually enjoy this, because they're going to be, not only have to worry about the government, they're going to have to worry about the media coming after them as well, and social media. So, it's very alarming to see this.
And for the listener and viewer, we're going to give you the whole list of where this is going. It's alphabetically, it starts with A and it ends with N.
Yeah.
Very appropriate. But on page 1, okay, it says the system collects a wealth of data needed to process the application, and it says name, organization, social security number, tax identification number, date of birth, address, telephone number, fax number, email address. Okay, so far you're saying, yeah, that's not too bad. Person's position, title. Now, if I was driving up to the gate, just to try to get in, they would say, what is your position? I'd say, I'm the driver.
Yeah.
Right? What do they mean?
Well, this is
position, title.
But this is what the government is doing, and this is kind of, the Democrats, when Trump made his 2016 run, he was really good at collecting all the emails at the rallies, and he built a huge email list. So now, when the Democrats came up, they fell short. So now they're, in the middle of all that process. So presumably, when you give your email address, I know I'm getting all kinds of junk email now that I didn't request, but they're getting it every time you give out your email address. And if you give it now to the national parks, now the national parks presumably is going to be selling that data. Not only are they giving it to the federal government, and it will be archived for 15 years. And again, this is FOIAble, so maybe your next door neighbor doesn't like you and they want to find out what you're doing. They can FOIA this information, and they can learn this information about you. It's dangerous on multiple levels here, not just from a government perspective, but they're building databases on absolutely everybody living in this country. So this is turning very quickly into a totalitarian situation where, like the Chinese, they monitor every single thing that you do. They give you a social media score, for crying out loud. That's where we're headed in this country. And unfortunately, we don't have a media really willing to go out and report this, and to get this information out. It's like there's very few stories out there on it. But on my newsletter I send out, I do have the Federal Register, the actual case number, in the web page where you can go and you can read the entire document that the Biden administration put out there. In essence, they're collecting all the data they can on you when you're going to a national park. Period. Whether it's if you're doing a wedding, that's a whole nother deal. But if you're going into a national park and you're paying to park your car or drive around, they're collecting everything now.
Wow. And you can almost see, all right, if they're going to have a big wedding and it's going to be in a national park, that they want all the information and who's doing it, who's in charge, who's responsible, things like that. And I know for a fact, because one of my sources tell me, that if you're doing a wedding, and not in a national park, but just about anywhere outside, whatever, all of a sudden you do have to give the credit card numbers, expiration, check number, money order, bank, all that jazz goes, to track you down. But this is to go into a park. Yeah.
But this is also, but let me just interject here real quick. In the past, when you pay for something like that, you typically give them a credit card or a check. And they typically took that. But now they're going to retain that information, archive that information for 15 years. That's the change. Before, last year, if you did this, sure, they take your payment method and all that, but it would delete and go away. Now they're keeping all of that information, and that's where we're crossing over into the complete monitoring of every aspect of a person's life.
Now, I'll tell you what. Let's get into some of these letters, all right, of where this information is going. Because I'm going to tell you something, listeners. When Kimberly gets to C, like ABC, D, when she gets to C, I think we'll stop there and let it soak in. But anyway, it's the abbreviated description of the federal agencies that will routinely have access to prevent application park visitors' personal information. All right. Who is number 8? The first one.
Well, the CIA is getting everything. First and foremost, this is going to the 17 intelligence agencies that this government has. Those 17 agencies, this information goes directly to them. This information is now going to be going directly to, like, the Department of Justice, to the Department of State, to the White House, specifically the White House.
Yeah, see, that's I think you have a different list than I have there, okay? Because I have A, Department of Justice, B, Congressional Office when requesting information on behalf of the individual, but C, the Executive Office of the President.
Yeah.
Why does he have to know how many people are going to your wedding and what your bank account is?
Well, exactly. So, so this.
Is that an ego thing?
No, this is kind of like a Susan Rice thing at the end of the Obama administration when they got information. They were trying to reveal, information about the Trump organization, about people that work for the soon-to-be President Trump. They leaked all that information. They leaked the information of people who were seeking FOIA requests within the government with certain news, outlets. Most of which were One American News and Fox News at the time. They leaked all of that information out to the media, and that's how they got this information, because it came to them personally. So this is what they're going to be doing. And again, like you said, Who needs to know how many people are going to your wedding or your kid's graduation, that you want to have a celebration that they graduated college and you're going to go camping for the weekend with your family? Who needs to know that information, and why do they need that information if they're not building a database on absolutely every single person in this country, except people who are in this country illegally, of course?
Yeah. And the other one here that kind of sticks out is G on this. G as in goodness. Because you're thinking, once again, if you're thinking of a wedding or just a party, I guess apparently it's going to be one of the greatest in the world, because the information has to go to the representatives of the National Archives and Records Administration.
Yeah, well, that's what they archive. I mean, like, if the president, whatever he does, whatever, it's all, monitored and archived forever. It goes to archives. But that's that interesting new aspect that the Biden administration has added to this specific service.
The president was invited.
Yeah, well, yeah, well, but this is what they're doing right now. That's what the government. This is what's so scary, is they're building this database, and it is going to the White House, and this is going to be saved in the archives for 15 years. Prior, you go, you do your event, you give them the money you owe them for whatever the permit cost was, and you went home, and that was the end of it. They had a record that there was a permit, but that's it. They didn't keep the credit card, they didn't keep your address, they didn't keep any of that stuff, on file. Now they're going to keep that. They're going to keep that at the archives, and by doing so, and by putting this at the archives, National Archives, that means the media, your social media, private citizens can now FOIA these documents and start looking for information. Basically, like I said, if you're getting into a tiff with your next door neighbor, or you have a spouse that you have a bitter end with and you moved away, they're going to be able to FOIA these documents. And that's where we enter into the stage where this is completely monitoring everything you do in this country, and it's going to lead to unintended consequences, which most of these new laws that the Biden administration just have no idea what they're doing. We're seeing what's going on at the southern border. Unintended consequences get people hurt and change the way people act and live in society. And we're all self-censoring right now, and that's not what America is all about.
Do you know if this is going to have to be voted on, or is this just a rubber stamp?
No, it's a rubber stamp. It's done. I mean, the next administration can undo it, but who knows? I mean, once it's there, it usually stays.
Well, they're gonna have a problem with the letter I. All right, a lot of problems there, because it's going to be racist.
Yeah.
And I says an expert, consultant, guarantee, or contractor, including employees of the contractor. Now then. There's going to be a lot of illegals that are going to complain about that, right?
Oh, yeah. When you look at...
Get rid of that one.
Yeah, well, that, and then also, I mean, think too, that this is going to the IRS as well. So, we always, the IRS kind of became kind of a, well measured under the Trump administration, and now the Biden administration's amping up and hiring more people, and and wanting to go after people for not filing their taxes properly or late or whatever it may be. That scares every American, because there's there's really one agency that that you need to be worried of. You're going to die. Everybody knows we're going to die someday, but you worry about the IRS, because they're going to come after you. They'll take your home, your car, whatever you have, freeze your accounts. So again, this is the National Park Service that's going to be forwarding this information along to these agencies. Why? Why does the government need to know that and this isn't just for people who pull permits. This is you drive into Yosemite, or you go, out to, see Mount Rushmore. Your information's now going to be kept in an archive for 15 years, FOIAble by anyone, and also given to all of these intel agencies, as well as all these different arms of the U.S. government.
Let me get away from agencies on this one. Kimberly, this is N, okay, letter N, the news media.
Yeah.
And the public, with the approval of the public affairs officer in consultation with the council and the senior agency official for privacy. Boy, now, it starts out, we're going to give you the news media, that is, as long as you're mainstream media, and the public, and but we have an official for privacy, so,
yeah.
it may not go out because we're going to determine that this doesn't meet our standards.
Yeah.
So you will be put in the official office for privacy jail.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah, well, you don't know. And again, this leads to dangers because once things are foiable, then again, your neighborhood or someone you had a prior relationship that you were trying to get away from, those people will all be able to go in and FOIA this information, and they'll be able to like somewhat track where you're going. And this can be, again, this unintended consequence. It could actually lead to harm. And we've seen a lot of, there's obviously been a lot of, shootings and whatnot. This could potentially lead to more situations like that because there are a lot of, people who just, they want to get away from a situation, and so they go to another town or another city, and that's their way of escaping this. Now they're going to be put back into a situation where this person can just decide, hey, I'm just going to go and like FOIA all of these different agencies and see if I can find out where that person is. And then that leads to very dangerous situations and consequences down the road. So I mean, it could lead to kidnappings of children and things like that. It's just, you've got, the government has really got to look at these situations. But right now what we're seeing is that the government really wants to monitor and shape a profile of absolutely every person in this country so they can monitor them.
All right. Taking a break. We're going to be right back with the one and only Kimberly Dvorak, and it's thekdreport.com. Interesting because the good news here is that you can request a copy of the records that the feds have on you, but I guess you've got to figure out where did it go, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and you have to like each, if you have no idea if this was requested by the Department of Justice or the Department of State or the NSA or the CIA or the FBI. So you have to like request individual, you have to go to each individual department and request what information they have on you. Now, for years, most journalists, myself included, have FOIA requested with the FBI, what they have, what file they have on you, myself, or other journalists that have done this. And they continually, say that, okay, well, it's a huge backlog, we're trying to get to it. And, I think it's been like 7 years and counting for myself trying to see what they have, what file they have on me and what they're looking at if somebody's, questioning a story that I've put out there or a broadcast that I've done on TV. So, this is something that, I think they just really pay lip service to, and they don't necessarily, they think that, well, you're going to give up and go away. In most cases, people will just forget about it, move on, and go away. I think for most journalists that are, interested in things like this, like Cheryl Atkinson and that, we continually react trying to get the information. And in fact, I did ask the information from CIA as well, and it was actually paid a visit from them instead, and I still didn't get the documentation on myself. They just wanted to know why I needed to know that. And I'm like, kind of my law, my right as a citizen, but apparently, they don't have to follow the rules.
Yeah, and this one you have to write Privacy Act request for access on every envelope, every letter you write, I guess.
Yes, and every date and all of that, so they have to keep track of it. And if you come from a big family, then maybe you go like multiple events and you're at multiple events, and once they have your name and they correlate it, they don't have to have your, I don't understand why the Park Service needs your Social Security number, first of all, but they're starting to ask for Social Security numbers. Sometimes they'll ask for a driver's license, but when you drive in, you're like, I'm not giving you my driver's license. Where is this going to go? Because you're worried about, identity theft and those type of issues as well. So, it's down.
Well, if you have a senior pass,
Yeah. Well, and again, what are they doing with the illegal immigrants in this country? Now it's like a judge banned that you can't even say illegal alien anymore. And from the entire history of this country, that's how we refer to them. So I'll say now illegal border crosser. Maybe I'll come up with a different term. But where are they falling in this situation? They don't have ID. They're not going to be monitored. So why do they get special privileges on this? And American citizens they're going to have their entire lives documented. And most people say, well, I'm not going to do anything wrong. But again, it can come down to a dispute with a neighbor. It can come down to a dispute with somebody that you used to, have a relationship with that you don't want to see. It could come down to kidnapping. Those are unintended consequences for these things. And nobody seems to think about those in the government. They just want to continue to add laws and regulations rather than going back and saying, well, these were dumb and let's get rid of them.
Well, I'll tell you, as we run out of time, I like what you have here. As you say, it's hard to imagine that when Congress created the National Park Service in 1872, they would have envisioned that the White House would turn it into a spy agency.
Yep.
Wow. So I'll have you back next Wednesday, right?
Yep.
Yeah. All righty. Kimberly Dvorak, and it's thekdreport.com, and appreciate it very much,
Okay.
Kimberly.